fam? It's Musashden, back for another speed paint after too long. I'm so sorry. I should have left you without a don't beat to step 2. But I'm going to do something just a little different. And I know I've been saying that on a lot of my videos recently. But as I draw this picture, I'm going to read the first part of their story. The story is about, I'm drawing Daken and Yuu, spelled Y-U-U, and I think I really love how their story is going, so I'm going to read the first part of it while I draw this picture of them together. Enjoy! Okay, so while editing this, or before I edited this, I looked it up to see if reading your fanfiction out loud was a thing, and apparently it is. I cannot tell whether or not most people are serious or joking about it. And if this is a terrible idea, I probably will never do it again. But if you guys don't hate it, well then neither do I. I'm clearly not about to read the entirety of this story that I wrote in the 13 minutes that make up this video. But I don't know what this is. So if you like it, let me know you like it. If you don't, then I will more than likely not do this for future pictures. Although I'm also working on another one, so just let me know. Daken felt like he was moving. He knew he had been running wild all night. Lost in his own fractured mind, running from his father and their shared demons. He had overdone it and was out of control until he blacked out. His mind was finally coming around. Had someone shot him in the head? A shot to his head or heart always threw his healing abilities for a loop. He had to reboot, and such a task required him to rage out until he blacked out. He always felt brand new afterwards, forced to take baby steps until his body was back to normal. He saw a few colorful light beams, and there was a faint mechanical sound. He opened his eyes, and immediately regretted it. It was morning. The sun was so bright it made his tired eyes throb in his skull. He tried again, this time opening them slower so his blown pupils could adjust. If he was still healing, it might explain why the sun hurt so much. Daken was sure he was on a train. He could hear the metal screeching along the rails and the gentle rocking of the car. He caught himself when the train started braking, an overhead speaker announcing that they were approaching Tokyo Station. How did he get in Japan? He looked around, and the train was oddly empty for the time of day. Usually it would be crammed with little worker bees scuttling off to their jobs. He blinked and snorted. He was about to doze off again when he realized the car wasn't completely empty. He looked around and spotted a man sitting on the other side in the next group of seats. What's that in his hand? Daken thought, his mind going to red alert in an instant. He still felt like crap. If this guy tried something, he'd be easy pickings. But he forced himself to focus. It was just a cell phone. He glared at the man's hands as he barely moved his thumb to scroll through whatever he was looking at. Daken followed the headphone cord all the way up to his face. His powers were waving in and out. 1 minute he could see every single one of the man's straight eyelashes. The next he was taking in all his black clothes. His skin was pale and smooth. His hair was dark. Just a random Asian guy on a random train in Tokyo. Not out of the ordinary. Daken forced himself to calm down. The guy wasn't a threat. It was like he could see the moment the man noticed his close attention. His eyes stopped tracking along the words on his screen, and he glanced up to meet Daken's gaze. Rather than look away in embarrassment, the man just stared right back at him. Was he challenging him? Had he pushed it too far this time? Was he the angel of death? No, he was a human. Daken could smell him, the soap on his skin, the cotton fabric of his clothes. He could hear his heartbeat, far too calm for someone who thought they were in danger. What was that? There was a soft clink beneath his shirt, the barely there scent of leather. When Daken tried to inhale deeper, he tasted blood. It was then he felt the warm trickle fall from his nose. When it landed on his arm, he realized how tattered his clothes were, and that he was missing his left shoe. There was a piece of paper clutched in his right hand. He could feel the ache of slowly healing injuries. As the train came to a complete stop, the high pitch of the brakes made his head feel like it would split in half. His nose wouldn't stop bleeding, and he could feel fluid in his ears now. He gasped when the man stood up. He reached in his jacket and pulled something out. Daken looked over briefly when the door whooshed open. The man was handing him something. "Take care," he said. Daken's eyebrows went up. His voice was deep. He finally looked down at what he was being handed. A handkerchief. Daken reached up and took it, not knowing what else to do in the moment. Normally he would tell anyone taking pity on him to go fuck themselves. But he was all out of sorts from his rage out. His healing ability overtaxed as it tried to push whatever had harmed him so badly. He wasn't using his pheromones on this man. This stranger was showing him kindness. It made him feel a little sick. "Thanks," Daken said, and pressed the fabric under his nose to catch the blood. The man nodded and departed the train. His heart was pounding. The handkerchief smelled like him, warm cotton, so clean with a hint of leather, it made Daken's mouth water. Daken slipped out of the door just as it was closing and spotted the man trotting down the stairs. That faint metallic jingle sounded like a bell in Daken's head. This way, this way. He didn't run despite his excitement. There were a lot of sensations colliding at once. His bare foot was cold on the rough concrete. His face felt hot. His throat was suddenly dry after he was practically drooling a few seconds ago. His stomach hurt, but he felt an odd euphoria. He wanted to fuck. He wanted to hunt. He wanted to feel anything. Skin on skin, the wet splash of blood. This unfortunate man had crossed his path and grabbed his attention. He was going to devour him. Daken followed him for what felt like hours. It was only 2 blocks. He kept vanishing and reappearing. Daken realized later on that he was simply passing between the lights on street lamps. Wait, wasn't it morning a second ago? Daken glared up at the sky. What the hell was happening? It was definitely night now. He realized later that the bright sun had simply been the overhead lights on the train. Holy shit, I am really fucked up. What happened to me? Daken thought to himself. The man suddenly gasped and turned to look at him. Shit, did I say that out loud? The man suddenly took off running. Shit! The man vanished between the streetlight, but Daken caught a hint of him out of the corner of his eye. He rounded a corner at full speed and ran into a brick wall, hard. It sent him sprawling on the ground. He got up and looked around. The man was gone. Had he really been there? Daken questioned everything about the encounter until he fully healed and was in his right mind later that day. He was trying to salvage the parts of his tattered costume when he came across the handkerchief. His blood had ruined it, but the man's scent was still clinging to it. Now that he was healed and his abilities were back in check, he could easily track him down. He still wanted to hunt. He still wanted to fuck. Daken stalked the trains at night, hoping to come across him along the route. He walked the street he had disappeared on, but there was nothing but the faintest hint that he had been there days before. He didn't live down that street. His scent would be stronger. It would lead somewhere. He was on the train heading back when he saw him. He had already been on when Daken boarded. Daken couldn't believe his luck. He had found him, purely by chance. Seeing him was like seeing a dream. His memories of that night had been so fractured, but he was sure. This time he wouldn't lose him. He inhaled, got a good bead on his scent. There was something about that hint of leather. Daken followed him, but was far more discreet this time. He walked a few blocks from the station before going into a bookstore. Daken passed it and doubled back just so he could stake it out a little. He caught sight of the man through the front window. He was wearing an apron now and standing behind the counter. He worked there. Daken decided to go in. He could easily spy on him from behind a book. "Welcome to Top Stack," he greeted Daken like he would any customer. Daken nodded but paused when the man did a double take. "Oh, it's you!" "Shit." Daken tried not to look too disappointed that the man recognized him right away. It was equally satisfying that he did remember him, though. "You look so much better," he said when he came around the corner to talk to Daken. I'm embarrassed you saw me like that," Daken said. He had never been good at exchanging pleasantries, or at least he had it in a way that wasn't a snooty brag or a thinly veiled threat. He had grown up in Japan, in a traditional home, and yet he was struggling to remember his manners. He didn't want to scare this guy. Not yet. "We've all had rough nights," he brushed it off. Daken had to check himself. Maybe make sure he wasn't using his pheromones on the guy. He wasn't. He was just being genuinely nice. Or maybe he could tell by the way Daken looked at him. He was into him. His name was Yuu Sato, and he wasn't at all what Daken had been expecting. Top Stack was an erotic bookstore. Yuu mostly worked at the cafe nestled in it, making dirty cupcakes and treats. Daken had seen the trick pour of milk into cappuccinos to make leaves and hearts. Yuu made breasts and dicks into the foam. He admitted he needed more practice with making a vagina. Despite being a little taboo, the store was quite popular. Daken would have been happy to ravish some shy, repressed little bookworm and leave him wrecked and wanted and questioning every desire he had for the rest of his life. But soon he realized a few things. Yuu wasn't shy. He wasn't repressed. He wasn't little. He was a dom. He knew exactly who he was. However, he was a bookworm. He gave Daken about 3 different guides to kink culture and told him if he wanted to play, that he should read them and come back in a week wearing something green. That's it for this week's video. Like always, you can find the full res of this finished picture in my DeviantArt gallery. Please let me know if you guys like this kind of thing. I enjoy doing it and putting the Foley artist stuff in there too and telling a story as I draw a picture. It's actually really fun. If you want to read the rest of Daken and Yuu's story, it's available on AO3. It is called Safeword. That's it for this week's video. Thank you for watching, and subscribe if you liked it or you like any of my other content. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, DeviantArt, Wattpad, and Tumblr, because I am Musashden here, there, and everywhere. Thanks for watching.